welcome everyone to Interviews with My Counsellor. My name is Carol and I'm joined by my very gifted counsellor, Dr Petro Booysen. Welcome, Petro.
Thank you, Carol.
We're coming to you from New Zealand, and it's our sincere hope that we are offering you suggestions that will help you if you have mental health problems. If you do have mental health problems, you are not alone. In New Zealand, 1 in 4 adults over the age of 18 experience poor mental health, and 1 in 5 young New Zealanders will be affected by depression by the age of 18. So please know that you're not alone, and we hope that our suggestions over the next series of our podcasts will be useful to you. Now, this podcast is not a crisis service, so here are some useful phone numbers in New Zealand. There's Lifeline, 0800 543 354. There's the Suicide Crisis Helpline, 0508 828 865. Depression Helpline, 0800 111 757. And there's free counselling if you talk or text 1737. So in today's session, we'll be introducing ourselves, our stories, and key factors that help me regain my mental health. We will be talking about the power of our thoughts, in particular to how important focus is. And in our next session, we will be discussing the thoughts in more detail. So, Petro, could you please start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Hello, dear listeners. And Carol, thank you so much for this beautiful idea. And yes, by all means, to say 1 or 2 little things about me and about the way I work. I have worked as a counsellor and a coach for 30-odd years. And over the years, one thing that I have found to be so incredibly powerful is that if we can help people to find how our mental commentary, our narratives, our thought-based experience, how that is the root of our suffering. So when we wake up to that, when we wake up to the fact of how our thinking creates our experience, we see more and more about our natural resilience and freedom. It is so important to start to notice our narratives, to start to notice our thinking. And as we do that, we discover that we have thoughts, and we all get thoughts, but we are not our thoughts. And we are going to say way more about that as we go.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Petro. And a little bit about my story and where I'm coming from. That 13 years ago, when my daughter was only 2.5, my husband was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And that was a big shock because he had never been sick before. And he very courageously fought his cancer for a year before he passed away. And when he died, I was left shell-shocked and traumatized. But I had a 3.5-year-old daughter to look after, and I made it my mission to raise my daughter with as much love and happiness as possible, and I was helped with that by my family. 5 years later, I was working in a stressful job and I had a complete breakdown. I went insane and I was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. I couldn't sleep and my thoughts were very muddled, and I was assigned a psychiatrist who was excellent in prescribing me the right medication to deal with my condition. So I was on medication for some time, and then I discussed with my psychiatrist going off the medication, and so I went off the medication. A few years later, however, I was in another stressful situation where I was breaking up with my partner, and my paranoid schizophrenia returned. So I went back on to the medication, which worked very, very quickly, but I was left with a heavy state of depression. I felt very without hope. I felt trapped. I felt alone in my suffering. And it was only, and I did go on medication for depression, which helped. But the key to my recovery were my sessions with Petro, and really examining the way that I thought was an enormous help in getting over depression. So today we're going to be discussing thoughts around focus. But here are some of the things that helped me that we will discuss in detail in the following podcasts that helped me get through my mental health state. So the first one was counselling with Petro and talking with my friends and loved ones. Living in the present, letting go of the past, knowing that the past was over, and not trying to live in the future, which I couldn't predict. Examining the power of my thoughts to determine my reality. Medication was a help. Meditation that I learned through Petro was an enormous help. And that's why we will be ending all these sessions with a 10-minute meditation. And gratitude, writing down what I was grateful for and help me refocus on that. Helping others, trying to find moments of peace in my day. Forgiving myself and being kind to myself. Getting good sleep. Doing things that I enjoyed, like music and watching movies. Researching through reading books and watching YouTube videos. The power of hugs and massages. Tackling fear and breathing techniques. So those are all aspects that have helped change my life and helped me overcome depression. So let's start looking at focus. When we first started having our sessions, Petro, you told me that what we focus our attention on grows. Yeah. What we focus our attention on grows. Can you talk me through that, please?
Yes, let's think about that together. You know, Carol, when we started talking about focus and how focus creates the experience that we have in that moment, when we started saying that, what did you see?
Well, what I saw was that my thoughts affected my feelings.
Yes.
And if I continued to have the same thoughts over and over again and have thought attacks that were negative, right, then that would affect my entire being.
Yes.
And with my husband, what would happen when I first went into counselling years ago after he died is I thought that I would be able to solve my mental health problems by just talking about the situation over and over and over again.
Right.
So every year on his birthday, I would regurgitate and relive the experience of his death, which was very painful.
Right.
And I didn't understand that all I was doing was creating more unhappiness in my life by reliving that situation.
That's right. That's so right. Carol, thank you for that. And thank you for your beautiful introduction and those lovely insights that you have just shared. And I'm so excited about this program, thinking about the fact that we are going to continue to share these types of insights and tease it out as we go. But more than about focus today, as Carol indicated there for us. What we focus on in the moment is what we experience in the moment. Dear listeners, I like to talk about the fact that when we take our, let's say we take our smartphones and we take a picture of a flower, we might look at this precious flower and zoom right in and take a photo of the intricate inside of the flower. You know, we might even find a little insect in there and really zoom in and take a photo of the inside of the flower. But that, in that moment, is our focus. In that moment, that's all we see. That's all we experience. Now, should we then zoom out and take a photo of the whole field of flowers? Clearly there, our perspective had changed. Clearly there, we start to notice the big picture. And it's so interesting how we do this in our daily lives. Our thinking starts to attach to a particular event or happening or experience. And as we mull that over and think about it and think about it and think about it, you can see how that grows in our experience. And at the end of the day, as Carol indicated to us, what we focus on grows. So what we focus on becomes the whole experience that we have at that moment. Now, how often have we all seen that something difficult can be happening? We might be going through a stressful time or a difficult time or maybe a sad event. And as we are going through that, we might at times notice that we have a window of feeling better, that we have a window of feeling a bit lighter. Now, what is that about? As we go through those difficult times, we do have moments where we are distracted. We do have moments where we are focused on something else. And therefore, in those moments, we let go of the replay of the story. So as Carol pointed out to us, what we focus on, we feel, we experience. And in that moment where we are able to let go of the story, where we are able to focus on something else or be distracted, we do not have the thinking that's feeding the feeling that's related to that particular event. Now, this doesn't say that we never allowed to feel sad or upset or any of those. All those feelings are normal. But if we want to be able to shift our experience, it is so important to notice where we focus. If we are continuously focusing on, let's say, something of the past, a difficult experience of the past, and we are replaying that, it means that we are in that moment reliving that. Now, we are going to talk about thinking and the past and memories and so on in future sessions. But clearly, just for the purpose of today's conversation, you can see that if we focus on something from the past and we are reliving that, we are reliving the experience of that, then our focus is taking us right back to a feeling state, a state of mind that is perhaps not serving us right at that point in time. So the bigger picture, zooming out, starting to notice the bigger picture, helps us to have a shift in perspective and to place in perspective aspects of the past, aspects that we are concerned about in the future, etc. Now, another metaphor that I love to refer to is, we know what beautiful works of art the Monet paintings are. And if we think about a time, if we have been fortunate to maybe have stood in front of a real Monet painting, and we think how we might have gone close up and looked at it from as close as we could get. And we know they don't always allow us that close, but getting as close as we can. With those Monet paintings, we see a whole lot of squiggles and dots, and looking at it from close, it looks quite crazy. Hey, it looks quite chaotic. And then the moment we take a few steps back and we look at that painting from a distance, we just see this amazing work of art. And so again, the same with us. As we zoom in our own lives, and we start to focus on squiggles and this event and that event, that's what we see, that's what we experience. And yes, it can look quite chaotic. But how often have we seen in our own lives that when we find a space to draw a breath, to step back, to look at the bigger picture and gain some perspective, do we start to feel lighter? Do we start to feel that we can breathe again? So as we are talking about zooming in and zooming out, we are also referring to letting go. We're also referring to the fact that we have the ability to let go of a particular focus. We can focus on something else. And like many of those beautiful things that Carol mentioned that she did, for example, a walk and a massage and so on, we can, in that letting go, we can help ourselves to come back to presence. And when I am in this present moment and I experience the zooming out, I experience the letting go, with that, I experience that I am no longer locked in to that particular line of thought. I'm no longer captive by that particular narrative. And as we let go and we get a bit quieter, we so often before saw things a bit differently, got a new thought coming in, and that's where our freedom sits. So our focus can help us to replay and relive aspects of the past. That is not problem solving. That's being locked in to something that doesn't exist anymore. In the letting go and the coming to the present moment, we can see something new. We can get a new perspective. We can get a new thought. Now, I will encourage each one of you to go and reflect on where you have seen this in your life before. And Carol, perhaps I can check in with you. What are you hearing when I talk about focus today?
Well, thank you, Petro. You talk so beautifully, and it's so illuminating to hear what you say. I think it's a great shift in our thinking to come from a place where we believe that we must talk through our suffering to actually realizing that that is causing us more suffering. And I'm not trying to say we shouldn't talk about our problems, but what I am trying to say is to ruminate in them, to have these continuous thought attacks doesn't actually give us peace of mind or well-being. And as you said so beautifully, what we think, we experience. And that's such a powerful message, I think, to get out of this first session. And we will go into thinking about, talking about our thoughts and the power of our thoughts in our next session. But there's something quite liberating about knowing that you can change the way that you think. You can be an independent observer of your thoughts, as you've said to me many times before. And your thoughts can change. And that seems very, very hard when you're in the midst of depression. But your thoughts can change and your feelings can change. It's just a matter of focus and as you said so beautifully, not looking at the chaos of the Monet painting, but actually zooming back and seeing the whole beautiful nature of your life, and that your life is not defined by your illness. So that's a very powerful message. Thank you, Petro.
And Carol, I absolutely love how you are pointing out for us that this is not about denial. It really is about not being stuck. It really is about letting go. It really is about freedom. And as you say there, we think that we have to think about and think about and think about and talk about and talk about and talk about. But as I said earlier, that's not reflecting. That's not problem solving. Usually when we get to that point, we've all certainly done enough thinking about a particular thing. And it's about moving forward, finding our freedom. Now, Carol, I want to also just at this point mention to our listeners out there that a good tool that we can use when we feel we get a bit stuck or we get a bit caught up is a well-known breathing technique. And so before we do our meditation, I'll just quickly mention that as a tool that people can take away and can go and have a play with. So if we breathe in for shorter than what we exhale, we literally contact our parasympathetic nervous system. And we say to the body, shh, hush, it's okay. So we go to our rest and digest system. So let's, for example, say, and we each can find our own rhythm, but if we breathe in, let's say for 4 counts, and we exhale for 6, and I'll encourage everybody to go and do this by yourself. Just sit there and inhale for 4 counts, exhale for 6, or inhale for 5 and exhale for 7. Literally just sit by yourself and do the counting and focus on the breath. Notice how your body starts to relax. So they're just a little tool for you to play with. How about I take us through a little meditation? Carol, shall we go into the meditation, or is there anything else before we do that?
No, I think that's fantastic. Thank you very much, Petro, for your wonderful insights. And I look forward to the meditation.
Right. So I'm going to encourage everybody just to find yourself a comfortable space and just to sit in a relaxed manner. And we'll talk more about meditation as we go. But what you are going to see from us in these conversations is that we don't have to sit in any very strict manner. It doesn't have to be absolutely quiet. And there's no getting it right or getting it wrong. It is simply showing up and having a go, having a play. And so if you have never meditated before, or if you've tried meditating and you think, oh, I can't do that, take it from me that there is not a right or a wrong or a, oh, I can't do it. Have a go and just see what you experience. There's no specific expectation. What you see is what you see, and that is absolutely fine. So as you're sitting comfortably, maybe just take a few moments and bring awareness to how you are sitting. Bring awareness to your posture. And if there's a way to make yourself more comfortable, go ahead and make yourself more comfortable. You may now want to close your eyes or simply just to fix your gaze on a particular spot, whichever you feel comfortable with. Now let's begin by asking ourselves, how is my mind? How is my body feeling right now? What am I noticing? What thoughts are going through my mind? What emotions am I feeling? What do I notice? How am I feeling in my body? We're just checking in with ourselves and just seeing, what can I notice? You may find it easy to spot thoughts or feelings or sensations. Or you may feel that your mind is racing or that it's difficult to see what's happening. Whatever is here now in your experience, just taking some time and being curious about what this moment is like, without needing to change anything. Now, as you feel ready to do so, bring your attention to your breath. You may focus on the sensations of the breath going in and out of the nostrils, feeling the air on the nostrils. You might even feel how the air that you inhale is a bit cooler than the air that you exhale, but just feeling the movement of air on the nostrils. You may also notice the rise and fall of the chest or abdomen. Just simply observing each breath as it flows in and as it flows out, without needing to change anything in your experience, without needing to change your breath. Just knowing that we are always breathing and we can always come to the breath as our anchor in the present moment. And as your mind perhaps wanders, No, this is okay. Just make a mental note of what caught your attention. And just gently, even playfully, bring your focus back to your breathing. And just notice that inhale and that exhale. And notice where and how you are feeling the inhale and the exhale in your body. Now making a conscious choice to expand the focus of your awareness from the breath into the rest of your body. Almost like we are just having a little scan of our bodies. And we're just becoming aware of our bodies as a whole. Being aware of our posture, or just noticing any sensations that are present in the body now. Just hanging out in our bodies and just feeling those sensations. Let's again ask ourselves, how am I in my mind, my body, my emotions right now? Just bringing awareness. Let's also bring a sense of acceptance to whatever is present right now. And as this short meditation comes to a close, see whether you can carry this sense of awareness to the next moments of your day. So, dear listeners, as you bring yourself out of this meditation, I want to encourage you to go into the rest of your day and just to take with you whatever you heard in this conversation today that you feel you resonate with. Thank you for listening to us today.
Thank you so much, Petro. We really appreciate your insight, and we look forward to our next podcast where we get into depth on thoughts. So thank you very much for today.
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to our next conversation. All the best, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.